Hey, what's up guys, it's Mr. Desire here. So today I'm going to be doing a little War Robots tier list video. I haven't actually seen any tier lists like this on YouTube, um, so I wanted to make one. This is as updated as possible. I even included a robot that's actually not released yet, which is the Hawk, so I will be putting that in the tier list as well. However, I don't really have any information on drones, so I can't include them, and also Titans are included. So yeah, let's just get into this. And we're going to go in alphabetical order, starting here with the Ao Guang. Now, I really see the Ao Guang as just some sort of nerfed version of Leech. I don't think it's absolutely terrible. I personally run one in my little fun dragon hangar, but I don't think that it would be reasonable to put it really anywhere above a C ranking. It is a really powerful robot because it has good firepower, has a nice built-in weapon, has a nice um, damage resistance, but unfortunately it's really just outclassed by Leech in basically every way possible. So yeah, it's gonna just be right there in the middle. Now Ao Jun. Ao Jun is a very popular robot. Basically, best robot there is around well, not best robot, but you know it's the top meta robots, like definitely top 5 material, and I would put it in S. I'm not sure, I'm really between S and A here. I do think that this deserves an S rating. It's an amazing robot, but the S rating is also going to have the Titans in it, and I don't know if you could say that this one robot actually can like beat Titans. Like maybe with some setups, it can put up a fight, but I don't think that it's actually. I'm gonna put it in A because the ones that need to go in S are the Titans, and this includes the Ao Ming. The Ao Ming is an amazing Titan. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going back on this. So I'm gonna actually rate them within their league. So this is A for bots, and this is A for Titans. So basically I can't just put all the Titans in S because, you know, the Titans are all better than robots. So, you know, some bots are gonna be, or some Titans are gonna be below other Titans. So yeah, the Ao Ming here is a very strong Titan. If you put those Dragoon weapons or even the Scourge weapons, the Ao Ming is an absolute monster at 600 meters. It's very overpowered. Um, they said that they're releasing some weapons to counter it, but you know, as of now, it is still very strong and uncontested as the best Titan, except for maybe Arthur. But it's just situational. So this is better at a range, and Arthur is better if you can get close. The Alkin. So yeah, I also use an Alkin. I do enjoy it just as a fun little robot, but I do understand that it's not very good. It does not do anything when it flies other than really just expose itself to the enemies. It does get some good vantage point and allow you to snipe people, and if you can keep it at 500 meters, it's okay, but I don't think it beats the Ao Guang. Um, I also don't think that it's like deserving of E or F tier because there's still robots like Krozak and Destrier that we're gonna get into, which obviously are not even close to something like this. So yeah, I think that D is a pretty good spot for it. Um, the Ares. The Ares has definitely fallen from grace, and it's a crazy Ares train meta that there used to be going on. I think that it's a pretty good robot still, uh, especially because people don't really use Shield Breaker that often, and I really want to put it B or C, uh, maybe with Ao Guang, because I have definitely, my Ao Guang has definitely beaten some Areses, but I do definitely think that the Ares is better um, than Ao, what's Alkin, sorry. So I think Ares would work pretty well in C tier, but it's really like C plus, kind of almost in B tier because you know it's really just kind of situational depending on levels and stuff. Um, Arthur, our next Titan. Arthur is a extremely strong Titan, just like Alming. And actually, if you can close that distance, and the Alming doesn't just keep kiting you and going back 600 meters and keeping the 100 meters between you, um, Arthur's will beat Alming's. But this is, only if you're able to actually get close. I don't think that it's reasonable to actually put the Arthur under the Yaming. I think that the Arthur is very much, uh, actually, I can put them like that, yeah. So I don't think that the Arthur is like a tier below the Alming, but everyone who has a maxed super crazy Titan is usually using an Alming, and the Alming just has a lot of firepower, and it can really kite the Arthur and just stay back. So these are kind of situational. They're basically equal, but I think that this it's reasonable to, if I had to say one is better, I'd probably give it to the Alming. Behemoth. Behemoth really, it has like the best firepower in the game, but it doesn't have any way to protect itself. I think that they need to buff it to give it some damage resistance in its siege mode, but as it is, Behemoth just sort of feels like some free silver. Um, it has a lot of damage. It's very good for sniping. Um, so I think I'm gonna put it with the Alkin here. Um, I'm sure that a behemoth with like dragoons would absolutely eat up an Alkin with Marquise, so it's gonna be in front of the Alkin. It's just a lot of meta robots, like even something like an Alguang with storms or whatever scourges or something like that will absolutely eat through the behemoth because it has such a massive hitbox and it cannot protect itself. So a good situational sniper, but that's about as good as it gets. Okay, Blitz. Now, this is where I'm just gonna throw in a little rule here. This tier list is gonna be the robots at their best form. So, like for example, an Arthur with machine guns is better than an Alming with machine guns, but an Alming with like dragoons is better than an Arthur with machine guns, and Arthur with machine guns is better than an Arthur with dragoons. So, that's just how it is. But here, like we have a Blitz, we're gonna assume that the Blitz has like the pilot and everything it needs if you were actually planning on using it in the highest leagues, and I think that the Blitz is solidly between A and B tier. It's definitely hard here. I might change this, but I'm gonna put it in A for now. I think that it's possible that other things will really beat it up, but the Blitz is a it's just a really good robot. It's kind of like just a baby leech. It has a smaller hitbox and it runs faster and stuff. So yeah, I think it's pretty solid in A tier. The boa. The boa is no longer even available, but if we just assume that you can somehow get your hands on one, it's just like a nerfed version of a lot of different robots. Even a Leo is just a better version of a boa, and I don't think that a boa actually, like, it's just, it was at some point a very, very top tier metabot. Um, but I think right as of now, it probably belongs around E tier here. But definitely not F. I don't think it's like a Krozak or a Destrier level. But I also don't think that like a Boa is better than something in D. Okay, the Bolt. The Bolt was a fun little robot. I did have some amount of time where I was actually playing the Bolt for a little bit. It was definitely a fun little robot, but it's just completely outclassed by the Kumiho. It's kind of like I think that a Boa would probably beat a Bolt in a lot of fights, but I also think that a Boa is like beating Destriers and Kozaks and stuff, definitely. So I'm just gonna put it behind the Boa. Yeah, I think that's about right. I'll just put the Bolt. It seems behind the Boa, so that seems about fair. The Bolt is definitely like it's kind of weaker than just directly weaker than like the Kumiho. It has lower firepower and one less dash. So yeah, it's okay for starting off if you want to try a dash robot. I think it's kind of expensive for what it does though. A Bulgasari. I think that this definitely belongs in D tier, probably after the Behemoth. Um, the Bulgasari has a really tough shield. I think it's like one of the best in the game, second best in the game or something. Um, We've probably beat up an Alkin for sure. The Bulgasari definitely had its meta, but that's kind of the times past now. It's still a relatively tough bot, but in comparison to a lot of bots that give themselves like invincibility shields and 80% damage resistance and stuff, it's probably not gonna be able to beat those guys. So I think D is a good spot for it. The Bulwark. Um, while this one doesn't really have its invincibility or whatever, its shield is so strong if you can get it all maxed and you can get all the pilot skills and the fortifier modules and everything, and it becomes a really tough guy. Like this thing even can be like fighting titans if you put vipers on it or something. And I feel like when that new kinetic weapon that they were talking about, the railgun, comes out and you could put it on a bulwark and probably beat up some titans for sure. So I think that a bulwark is definitely tough. It's above D tier for sure, and I think I would have to put it probably. Uh, it's hard to tell whether this would be better than an Ares or not, because an Ares, like Bulwark's very situational, so I'm gonna put it after an Ares, because an Ares you can really just do whatever with it. You can use it for a lot of things, but a Bulwark you've really got to put a lot into it to get that shield up to speed. So yeah, the Butch. The Butch is just directly worse than the Behemoth, basically. So I I don't even know if I would be able to put it like after the Behemoth or something. I don't think D. Maybe it's like an E tier heavy robot. I think yeah, it probably belongs in the front of E tier, or around here. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it right here. It's probably after the Aukin, because it can only use two of its heavies at the same time, so you're really limited to using basically trebuchets, if or otherwise you're not really getting, you're just a big hitbox with just two heavy weapons and no real ability to help you out. So yeah, I think I could put it in D. It's definitely better than some things in E though, but not as good as most of the stuff in D. Okay, and the Carnage. The Carnage was definitely a crazy robot back in the day, with the Thunder Carnage just hiding behind a wall and then ambushing players. So I think for sure the Thunder Carnage is it's okay. It even has that new ability. I think that it's probably better than a Butch, but and definitely better than like the guys down here. But like an Alquin would probably go through that energy shield with its energy weapons and beat it up. Carnage wouldn't really be able to get close. So yeah, I think that the Carnage is pretty good in lower D tier. Cerberus. Now, okay, I would like to say that Cerberus is a really good robot. I would love to, because I really think that the Cerberus is a pretty nice thing. It's made with a community. But unfortunately, the Cerberus has a lot of it's just it's so countered by one module that everybody uses. Everybody uses an anti-control, and you shoot a Cerberus, you shoot someone, their anti-control just deflects it, and now you have a paper-thin shield and no ability. So honestly, like I think it goes after an Ao Guang. Definitely, probably beats a Behemoth, but wouldn't I think that an Ao Guang would probably beat a Cerberus as long as it had its anti-control unit. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna have to rate that one. Krozak. We all love our Krozak and our Destrier, and the Krozak definitely goes before the Destrier because it has the jump ability. These are the robots that you started with. They were not really intended to be very good, but that's just how they are. Krozak and Destrier, they're bottom of the barrel, but they helped us learn the game, so yeah, they at least get respect. All right. And the dock. Okay, surprisingly, I really think that the dock goes before the Behemoth, and it's not just because it's like cheap, or not the Behemoth. I mean the Butch, because of the weapons that you can have on it. Like a dock with Orkans and Terrans or double Orkans or something is it just feels like it's so much better than like a beam. Even a dock with double Tulumbuses, it just it gets so much more use than something like a behemoth with trebuchets. Because trebuchets is really the only good thing you can put on a behemoth, and or not behemoth, a butch. I keep saying behemoth. Anyway, yeah, I think that the dock definitely beats its big brother in many situations. It at some point, it used to be one of the toughest guys out there in terms of like damage because you put 4 Orkans and do a ton of burst with it. But as of now, I don't even think that it would be like a Carnage. Maybe it would stand a chance if it had like Terrans, but I think that Carnage would win with Thunders. Okay, Falcon. This is easily A tier with the T Falcon ability. Even without the T Falcon, even without traditionalist, I'd still maybe put it in like B. Its ability is fun to use, but if you're not using the ability, this is like a great tank. I don't think I would put it before the Blitz. I think the Blitz with the Clive Vicious pilot probably beats out a T Falcon, just in terms of utility, because a T Falcon is just a walking invincible heavy weapon. Blitz can like actually dish out a lot of damage with those 4 lights and suppress a lot of people. So yeah, I think I'd have to put it like that. A Fenrir also, I think this goes right before T-Falcon. This is just basically a premium T-Falcon. A T-Falcon, like you're missing out on those 2 medium weapons, but basically like if you can afford to buy and level up a Fenrir, it's probably going to beat a T-Falcon in most situations just because it has more firepower and very similar, like extremely high durability. The only thing T-Falcon's like kind of beating it in is because it has like a small hitbox. So when people are shooting shotguns at you, you're not going to absorb as many of those bullets. So yeah, it's a pretty hard choice, but I think just because the Fenrir has those 2 medium weapons, and the Falcon in its T Falcon form is only using 1 heavy, the Fenrir will probably take the spot over the T Falcon, but they're still both extremely good. Okay, a Fujin. I think that a Fujin is probably going to be like our top contender here for E tier. Um, because that energy shield, like at this point in the game, everyone's got energy weapons. Energy shields just are kind of useless, and it just like sits still, just like a behemoth. But instead of having this really high firepower, it doesn't really increase its firepower. It puts up an energy shield, and in general, you'll be able to almost always bypass the energy shield with like Terrans or something. So I think that this beats out like a boa and a bolt by far, but I wouldn't. I don't think that I would be able to move it up to D, just because it's just so easy to absolutely destroy whatever you're using, like Terrans or whatever. So yeah, it gets a good spot in E because like whenever you're fighting people who are using Orkans or something, which not many people use anymore just because of how nerfed they are. But if you are fighting a death button setup, the Fujin will hold its ground and probably maybe be able to win as long as they can't like walk into you. But there's always someone on the enemy team that's got Terrans or Magnums or Scourges or something like that. So yeah. Fury. I think Fury is just a nerfed behemoth, gonna be honest. Like, when Pixonic was like making the behemoth, they probably started with the Fury, and then they just made it look cooler or something. And they gave it another weapon, of course. So the Fury is basically, I just see it as a worse behemoth, but it is a better Butch, probably. Um, Unless we're talking about trebuchets, I think the Butch will win with trebuchets. But with like any weapon other than trebuchets, like with the Zeuses or Avalanches or Tridents, the Fury definitely takes the cake over the Butch, and I think that that's definitely going to give it one spot over the Butch. Um, Also, I think that it would probably beat out the Dock as well. Yeah, the Fury with Tridents is definitely a force to be reckoned with. Okay, we have the 2 Brit bots. I think that Gareth here is going to go right after a Bolt. A Bolt with Pinatas will probably really eat up a Gareth. Gareth's shield is a tough piece of steel, but like it also gets beaten up really hard by like shotguns nowadays. Storms and the gusts and the thunders and Avengers, all that stuff going on. It will definitely eat through the Gareth a lot, whereas the Bolt can just dodge. So I think that it gets beaten by the Bolt. But the Galahad, I think I'd put this over a Fujin. Um, and that's probably as far as the Galahad would go. It, you know, with a plasma setup, it can be pretty decent because plasma weapons or energy weapons are way more popular than rocket weapons. The only rocket weapons you really see nowadays are cryo freeze weapons. As long as you're not, you can pick your battles wisely. As long as you don't got any people using cryo weapons, then you're probably fine in Galahad. Okay, and Jeopard. This is just a worse bolt. It's just a bolt without the ability. It's also worse than the Gareth probably because even if it's got those pinatas, it doesn't have the dash, so it can't escape. So I think the Gareth definitely beats out the Jeopard or Jeopard. I don't really know how. Maybe back when you could put magnums on it and get into easy lobbies and kill everyone. Maybe I'd put it up a tier. But as of now, it's just a entry level bolt. The Golem. The Golem is definitely a contending bot when it comes to just like it has a heavy and a medium and a light, so it's able to really be customized. I don't even understand why they removed it from the store. I really like the Golem, but so yeah, you used to be able to like customize it a whole lot. The Golem is definitely like it's cool to like put one of every weapon, like an Exodus, an Orc, and a Pinata or whatever, and just have that full set of those weapons. It's pretty cool, but aside from its cool factor, I think that it's just kind of like worse than a boa, um, because like basically it's trading the health pool of the boa for one light weapon, which isn't really a valuable trade, in my opinion. So yeah, this bolt's definitely gonna be, or I mean, this golem is definitely taking E tier here. A griffin. Okay, so griffin, I think I could solidly put this like, actually no, this probably beats a Carnage with a plasma setup. So yeah, I think that's a pretty decent spot for Griffin. Griffin used to be a very powerful bot. Nowadays, it's been beaten out by just the Raven robot. So it's just kind of your low tier silver robot. So to get you ready for a Raven or jumping robots in general. So yeah, it probably beats a Carnage if it's got, unless it's using a death button setup. But I think that Naukin is probably better than a Griffin. Just because the Griffin has such a massive hitbox and it does not have much mobility. It's really slow and that jump takes so long to recharge. Okay, and a Hades. Okay, a Hades. I think this is pretty easily. I'd say it's behind an Ares. Is it? Yeah, I'd probably put it behind a Bulwark as well. But I think it's probably also behind a Guang. Yeah, I'd probably say that. So, oh wait, this Ao Guang, wasn't this originally in the front here? I don't think an Ao Guang would be a Bulwark though. I don't even know why I'm getting back to this. Okay, I'm just gonna rearrange it like that. So, even though I did originally say that the Ares is probably better than the Bulwark, I'm just gonna put this like this because it's kind of confusing. Because I think that an Ao Guang would beat an Ares, but I don't think an Ao Guang would beat a Bulwark. But whatever. That's just how it is now. Ares definitely better than its little brother, the Hades, but the Hades is better than the Cerberus. So yeah, that seems about right. Hayachi, I'd have to put this just right after the Bulgasari. Um, Back when Hayachi was meta, the dash bots were meta. Um, that the energy shield was definitely a lot better than the physical shield. Nowadays, everybody's using plasma. Back then, everybody used organs. So Hayachi has definitely seen a drop in comparison to Bulgasari, where Bulgasari has that good shield. It will still protect you against most of the weapons other than cryos, but you could like dash from cryos. So yeah, Hayachi probably better than a Bulgasari if you're fighting cryos, but otherwise, I give the Bulgasari a spot above it. Okay, the Hawk. Now this is something like I didn't even have this info box image. I had to make this myself because it doesn't exist yet. The Hawk, I think, is definitely going to be easily an S tier robot, and it's probably going to beat out the Aljun. Um, it's designed for killing Titans. It has an anti-damage resistance weapon, so it's going to be able to not just kill Titans, it's also going to be able to kill anything that relies on damage resistance, like a Leech or an Ao Guang or whatever. All those damages, and even a Fenrir. So I think that it's definitely kind of beating the Aljun in that, like, also it has two light weapons, more firepower, and from the test server, it really drives, it flies extremely fast, whereas the Aljun got nerfed, so it doesn't fly as fast. So this definitely, I think it will be S tier, but we're probably, I mean, this might be edited. We're definitely gonna have to wait until it's released to be sure. Hellburner. Okay. I think a Hellburner gets a pretty good spot, maybe C or D. Let me just see the bots we're looking at here. I think if you really level up the Hellburner, it will be a pretty good bot, and it can probably even beat like Ares's and Hades's if you just get into their shield and blow them up. Um, but like you have to level up pretty high. I don't know. I mean, you could maybe. No, I don't think it probably. I don't think it goes in B. I could put it. I think right before Cerberus. No, right after Cerberus. Cerberus is probably a bit better because if that Hellburner is using like a last stand, I don't know how many passive modules it's using, but if it has like an overdrive and a last stand, I think it only has two. Then what's it called? Cerberus might be able to suppress it and lock it down. Although if it has an eco, it's really there's a lot of variables to consider. But I think in general, I would probably rather use a Cerberus over a Hellburner. A hover, okay. Hover is a fun robot. Whether or not it's like a good robot is kind of arguable. It's sort of like this weird glorified version of Auken. So I want to put it there, but I think that like because of a lot of the like right now it has this glitch or feature. I don't really know whether or not it's a glitch or feature, but if you tap the hover button really fast, then you can actually like fly really far. And you basically never run out of fuel. You can get to beacons really quickly. It's a pretty good beacon capper. It exposes itself so much when it gets into the air, and it just feels like you really get sniped down pretty often. So I think that I would put it one spot over a Hellburner at best. Um, Probably I don't know. I don't think I would put it over a Cerberus though. Cerberus has more firepower, and with something like a Tehran setup, it would shoot it out of the sky. Inquisitor. Okay. I have like alt account on Steam, and I do use the Inquisitor on it. And let me tell you, in comparison to how the Inquisitor used to be, it really has taken a fall. I mean, honestly, Inquisitor is just sort of. I don't think that I can. This is a pretty tough one. I think that it probably because of the stealth, you could probably safely put it above the dash bots. And you know what? I'm actually gonna knock down the Hellburner a tier, and I'm gonna put it like right there. I think that's probably a better spot for it. It used to be really good when there was all those Hellburner rushes, but I think that I'm gonna put that there. I just rethought of it. Anyway, yeah. So Inquisitor, it probably beats out the dash bots for sure. Behemoth is arguable. I think Behemoth has a bit more utility, but in a 1v1, the Inquisitor would probably win. So yeah, I think that's a pretty good spot for it. Okay, Invader. Hmm. It this is a hard one. I kind of want to put it in B tier, but I also I want to judge it fairly, and I'm not sure if it is worthy of B tier because it's definitely a tank. Um, yeah, I think it's definitely worthy of B tier because it's like a tank, like the Fenrir and the Falcon, but it's not as good as the Fenrir and the Falcon at tanking. Most of it has its raw health, whereas these guys are using damage resistance. So while you'll be a little better against Titans, in general it doesn't feel like with this thing since your damage resistance is multiplying your health by like a lot, you just have more health. I believe, I'm not certain. I think that with the damage resistance, these guys are beating this in health, and they also like really beat it in firepower. I think maybe a medium and two lights is like almost the same, maybe a little tiny bit better than one heavy, but it's definitely. I don't think that even with the suppression stuff, like the anti-control really gets it, and it just doesn't really. So it has a little bit of resistance. It's a pretty tough robot, but I feel like it just doesn't beat those out. It has a big hitbox, and the four legs, like as fun as the four legs are, it gets really wonky, and you know, sometimes you get caught on walls when you're trying to escape and stuff. So yeah, I think B is a good spot for the invader. Definitely a good tank, but not as good as these tanks. Jesse. Jesse, I would probably put it around here. Personally, I preferred the Jesse over the Gareth just because like the Pinata burst is a pretty nice thing to have, and it's kind of like this weird, better, faster version of a GI pattern. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely put a Jesse in E tier around this area. Maybe this is really personal preference here. If you think that the Gareth is better, then you'd put it over that. But I think I kind of prefer the Jesse. Um, let's see. We have the kid now. Okay. Actually, you know what? No, I'm flipping these because this is really good against Plasma. Alright. So indecisive. The kid. Okay. I think of the Titans, the kid is without a doubt the worst Titan. I mean, like, not even. I'd put it in F, but, like, I think it's better than these. As for Titans, I don't think this thing, like, can go over. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in, like, C. The kid is just not a very good Titan. I mean, you're walking around with, you're supposed to be Titan with all this massive firepower, and you spend most of your time with just these two little weapons, and you can only activate your all out every so often, and it feels so stupid. Like, why is it that you're limited? You can't even use your full heavy weapon because you don't have enough time in all out mode to actually empty it, but Arthur can. So I just don't like the kid. I see a lot of people though upgrade it and stuff and be like, oh, look how good my kid is. I just don't think it's worth it to upgrade a kid whatsoever. Kid is just so, if it's really weak in comparison to any of the other Titans. So kid is getting C. If this was just a Titan tier list, then I'd be like Alming S, Arthur A, Kid F, and I don't know, Nodeins. We'll get to that when we get to that. Do I even have Nodeins here? Oh yeah, okay, I do. Alright, let's get to the Kumiho. Kumiho, um, I think that this is, obviously it's going to go after its little friends here, after the dash bots. It probably beats out a Hellburner, but I think that I prefer the Aokin over the Kumiho, just because you can like kind of outrange it with the laser, and the Kumiho is usually, it always just use like 2 Orkans or 2 Trons or something. It just feels like Orkans, they run out of ammo way too fast now. Kumiho definitely going to beat out a Hellburner though, and a Griffin, maybe a Carnage. Yeah, I'd say it beats a Carnage as well. So yeah, that's a pretty good spot for it. Lancelot. Okay, so this is gonna beat a Butch for sure, and I think that there in D-Tier is probably best for the Lancelot, because I think that it has a bit more utility than the Fury. Even though it has less firepower, it has all those shields and stuff, and you could even compete with a Lancelot in Champions League. It's just not like amazing. It's really just a nerfed version of a Fenrir. Maybe no, I don't think it would really be reasonable to put it at the end of C tier because like then it would have to be beating a Behemoth, but I think a Behemoth has more utility than a Lancelot. A Leech, okay. A Leech, solid A tier robot. I would actually even put it here. No, I think that a Leech. No, okay. Since the Blitz has its suppression, it definitely gives the team more utility in general. Whereas the Leech is kind of a selfish robot, and it only gives itself all the damage resistance. Whereas this will give itself damage resistance and suppress all the enemies for your teammates. So Leech goes under Blitz, but I would put it over Fenrir because you can really melt them down by doing like you hit it with the shotguns and you just keep spamming the shotguns, and when you run out of ability you run away from them, and you could just keep doing that hit and run, and you could do it with your teammates. So yeah, I think the Leech definitely has a good spot in A tier, but like I'm not sure if it beats things like Aljun, and it's definitely gonna get destroyed by Hawks. Leo, this guy is an absolute fan favorite, and I think Leo is just as he used to be the poor man's Lancelot. That's really just it's a Lancelot, but it trades off the shields just for raw health, and instead of the 2 mediums, it has 3 lights, and I think 2 mediums are definitely better than 3 lights. So yeah, Leo just gets a nice spot behind the Lancelot for sure. Hmm. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna move the Lancelot up a couple tiers. I think that it beats a Griffin and a Carnage. I didn't look at that. Um, Hellburner probably has in higher leagues. I'd rather be using a Hellburner like to open up than using like a Lancelot as my tank. Uh, just because like the Lancelot in Champions League isn't really, it's not that amazing. You know, the leeches will brush you and destroy your shield really quick. So you know, um, that's how I'm gonna have to rate that one. Loki. Okay, Loki is a solid B tier. Maybe I could. I don't think I can really put it past a B tier. With it, like it's probably I think it has more utility than Invader. No, you know what? I'm putting it in A tier. Loki's definitely a great beacon capper. And just that gives it all the team utility in the world. Just because like you could spawn in when all the enemies are in their Titans and use the Loki, and they will never catch you. They'll never shoot you. They're just gonna have to like dip their Titans. So yeah, Loki is a great robot for capturing beacons. Um, Mender. Okay. Since we're including the Hawk, I'm going to also assume like that means the Mender's update thing has come out where they buffed the heck out of the Mender and they made it like heal a lot more. Um, so with that being said, like currently in the Mender's current state, it's probably like somewhere in C. But I think after this buff, I could put it in B with a clear conscience. It's gonna be pretty good. I don't think it will beat out Nightingale though, which is probably gonna go in like A or S or something. Mercury. Okay, Mercury is kind of like a better Inquisitor. I'd even put it over. No, I don't think I could put it over Behemoth. I think it's just like kind of better than Inquisitor because it has the damage potential and a smaller hitbox and stuff. So, uh, yeah, Mercury's pretty good. It's hard to say whether it's better than like it would definitely destroy a behemoth in a 1v1. It's just the behemoth has good team utility. Like if you put dragoons on it, a dragoon behemoth is really powerful. So honestly, even keeping the behemoth in D tier kind of feels kind of wrong because like it probably beats a hover at least. So yeah, I'm going to move up the behemoth one tier just because of its good team utility. If you're using it as a sniper, it's right above the hover. And also I'll put it above the Cerberus. Yeah, that sounds right. Natasha. Okay, Natasha. I think that Natasha is a worse Fury. It was the poor man's Fury through and through. Um, back in the day, you'd use your Zeus Fury, and your Zeus Natasha would just be worse than the Zeus Fury. But I think like it had two good. You could put two geckos or whatever on it. But overall, if you're looking for a sniper, Behemoth is probably one of the really good snipers, and then Fury, and then Natasha. Natasha is very cheap, which is good, but just doesn't like stand up to Fury, which is the more expensive one. Nemesis. I think that we can like continue this train here where we have actually I would put Nemesis over Hades. I prefer Nemesis because really for the whole shield duration thing, I think having like really high duration, really high cooldown is very good, and really low duration but also really low cooldown is also really good. But when you go in the middle, it just makes this really odd kind of thing, um, and I just kind of prefer Nemesis. It just feels a bit tankier, and you always have that shield up whenever you need it. I even use a Nemesis on my baby account over like an Ares or a Hades, but I think general consensus would say that an Ares better than a Nemesis. So yeah, that's I think that's a pretty fair place for it. Nightingale, the best healer in the game, easily takes S. Um, it's really yeah, Nightingale is a great healer. Having one around the time that you have the Titan phase where all the people are spawning in their Titans is absolutely amazing because you can just heal your Titans and suppress the enemy Titans. Nightingale just does it all. I absolutely love my Nightingale, and it's such a good healer. Everyone needs to use a Nightingale. So yeah, Nightingale takes an S tier. I won't put it over an Aljun because Aljun with the Yang Li will definitely rip up a Nightingale or rip it to pieces. Um, as long as it can get a lockdown on you, it'll really kill you. But like, usually Nightingale, because it has a tiny hitbox when it's flying, it makes itself like really flat. You can move around, you can dodge it, but still, I don't think a Nightingale usually beats an Aljun unless you're like higher level or something. Maybe at similar levels you could, because like a Nightingale has a ton of health when it lands. I mean, it's pretty tanky. So I don't know. This is kind of arguable. I think a Nightingale gives a little bit more team effort than an Aljun, Like it just helps your team more. But Naujin is just better as like a damaging robot if you want to get those high damage spots and you just want to be really good. So yeah, I'm gonna put Nightingale over the Aujin for now, just because of how good the utility is. But do know that like an Aujin will probably like beat a Nightingale in terms of like fighting potential. Nodeins, okay, Nodeins. The Healing Titan, it's pretty good. The disposable ability is okay, but it's kind of like it's only 50% suppression. You can do it through walls and all that stuff, which is kind of insane. But the cooldown on it is really long, and in terms of like fighting all the other Titans, this one's really squishy. I believe it beats an Ao Ming in a 1v1. It doesn't beat neither though, and it definitely beats a kid. Um, I would like to put it in S tier, but I think it should be a bit more diverse, and I think it belongs more in A tier, because like really on your team you don't want more than one or two of these. You probably like in a perfect champion team you'd have like one, I think like two Arthurs and one of these and three Elmings and one, yeah, so one Nodeins, because it can heal pretty well. Maybe two Nodeins, but still, I don't think that Nodeins, in terms of just being like a really good Titan, it has the good team utility, but it doesn't do what a Titan does, because it's a healer. And a Titan is supposed to be this massive tank. So you really can't like engage a lot of enemy Titans using a Nodin, because you'll usually lose unless it's like an Ao Ming, but usually that's just for machine guns. Like a machine gun Nodeins beats a machine gun Ao Ming, but an Ao Ming with like dragoons can really keep the range away from a machine gun Nodeins. I'd say Noden's best setup is either scourges or machine guns. So yeah, that's about fair. GI Patton, yeah, this is just a worse Jesse. Um, whether or not it's a better Japard, I don't think I would say it's a little better than Japard. Even though Japard's is faster, usually when you're using these kinds of bots, you're just trying to do a ton of like burst damage with the pinatas, which are the cheap weapons, because like you don't unlock or you don't get organs for a while when you're using these like silver bots. So since I definitely trade the speed for the one extra light slot. Phantom, okay, this is gonna be like. I could put this like right over Loki. It's very good for like pushing the first beacon. I think that the Phantom is definitely an extremely good for that kind of use. Um, but it doesn't like give as much team value as the Loki would. But it like consistently destroys enemy Lokis like always, just because its weapons are mounted so low. So it should be a Loki for sure. Yeah, so that sounds about fair. Pursuer, okay. Pursuer is just a worse Loki, but I don't think that it would be fair to put it in B tier, because it's just like it will get destroyed by Yang Lee's. I think this is probably just a bit better than like. No, it doesn't give as much team value as a Behemoth. I'd probably put it like over a Cerberus or something. So yeah, that's gonna be the Pursuer. Origin, okay. Origin is with Thunders in low leagues, you can really hold beacons. In higher leagues, it just gets smoked by cryos. Um, it's definitely better than a Fujin because of the physical shields. So I'm gonna have to like put this. I think. This is a hard choice. I'll put it right up. No, I'm putting it right behind a Lancelot. Yeah, that sounds fair. So yeah, it's good for holding beacons. It gets that big damage boost when it's in its mode, and it's also decent if you want to snipe. But I think that the utility that you get out of it in comparison to like a Lancelot probably isn't as good. Mm, I still think it's like really weird having a Hellburner over a Lancelot, but it's probably better to rush with the Hellburner than use a Lancelot in the higher leagues. Uh, anyway, Ravana. Okay, you guys like saw this coming. It's the best robot in S tier. Obviously, it doesn't beat a Titan, but it's just so ridiculously overpowered with the Arnav Poe, and you can literally like someone did the math. You could say phase shift for almost a minute. Even with the upcoming nerf where it can't contest beacons, like that's definitely going to push it down a little, but not even enough to move it from S tier. Just the fact that you can dodge anyone's ability is ridiculous. So the Ravana definitely takes like it's one of the best robots in the game right now. It is obscenely powerful. Just all that face shifting, it's crazy. Anyway, onto Raven. Raven, I think, is actually under hover as of now, and I'll tell you that is because originally Raven would beat hover just because it could go really far with its double jump, but hover now because of this whole thing that you can just tap the glide button and infinitely fly, and I think that just makes it beat out Raven. If they nerf that, because I'm not sure if it's really even intended, it might be like a bug in the game, then I think they would switch places. But as of now, I think that a hover beats out a Raven. Also, hover I think has a bit more health, and just the only thing that like Raven beats it in really is the one heavy or the one light weapon. Okay, a Raker. Raker just feels like a really like crappy kind of Nightingale that doesn't heal. It's definitely you know, hmm, I'd put Raker like right under a Cerberus. Because the Cerberus obviously has like it also locks down. The Raker I think mostly would just be good for tagging people and making them forcing them to use their anti-controls from just far away. It's a decent sniper, but like not really, just because of its low firepower. So yeah, that's what I'd have a Raker at. A Rhino. This one's kind of tough. Rhino. I think that this is like behind Griffin, because Griffins with the death buttons always killed rhinos, but a rhino's like now as fast paced as shit is. Stuff is just so fast paced. People run around, they jump around, they fly around. A rhino turning around just can't keep up with it. So I think that a griffin probably just beats it in that. Regatka. Regatka is better than Griffin in my opinion, just because of how much you can jump with it. Um, but probably it's like the bridge between a Lancelot and a Raijin. I think it's better than Raijin. Can cap beacons and stuff, but it's probably worse than a Lancelot. Lancelot's just got the big physical shield and whatever, and the extra heavy weapon of firepower. Shootsy, um, you know, with all those other starter little light robots, um, definitely before Destrier, but that heavy weapon doesn't compensate for the lack of the jump that the Krozak gets. So Krozak's staying strong, top of F tier, and yeah, let's go on to the Scorpion. Scorpion is one of the newest bots as of now, and honestly, I think it definitely goes up here, like in the big meta bots. But I don't think that it like beats an Aljun. This thing is just so ridiculously like you just teleport behind someone and then get out. It's pretty crazy with how you can just easily escape. So it's a good robot definitely, but I don't think that it causes as much destruction as like an Aljun. Um, so it definitely is gonna. I mean, I might even knock it down right here. Yeah, I'd probably put it at the top of A tier actually. It is definitely like usable. It's very good in the meta. It's just like I don't think that it can be compared to something like an Aljun. Spectre. Uh, well, it's better than Inquisitor for sure. Um, Mercury, it's really debatable. I think it's definitely like even way better than Mercury that it goes up here, because like we even have the Raven and the Hover up here. So I think that up here it's like probably beating I forget this guy's name. Whatever, the big guy with the big guns. Yeah, him, big guy, Behemoth. All right, Stalker. So now that you can like, I don't know if you can buy it with silver yet. I think it's just like a cheap amount of gold. So, and this is like the first stealth bot you're introduced to. So I think that it definitely goes up here just because of its like, it's a really fast low league robot. It probably beats out a lot of these guys. Actually, you know what? I don't think that I could put it next to those guys. I'd have to put it right behind the Bolt, because yeah, the stealth ability, it's really just so much a weaker version of where is he? The yeah, the Sky Pursuer. So yeah, that's about where I think it goes. Strider. Okay, Strider is great for taking a center beacon. Um, so it should go right around here with these guys who are also very good at taking. Um, Tier. Okay. Tier is B tier, haha, but I'm Crash, I know. I think that after the buff that the Mender is gonna receive, the Mender will beat it as a support robot, but the Tier will definitely still be beating the Mender as like a damaging robot. But yeah, I feel like its healing is not like that strong. It's good that you can continually heal and move around, unlike the Wayland. So yeah, but I still would have to give the Mender a bit of a higher spot than the Tier. Just because of after the buff, it's going to be pretty crazy. It's going to be running really fast, and it's going to be healing really high. Vichyaz, this is another one of those like low tier you learning training wheels bots. And when I had to make my choice, I remember this very specifically. When I was a newbie in War Robots, and I had to make my I had like 1,000,000 silver finally racked up, and I had to make my choice, either a either a golem or a vichyaz. I looked at all the stats and stuff, and I chose the golem just because like the vichyaz has a little bit higher speed, but it trades off a medium weapon, and I thought that medium weapon is definitely worth it for having a little bit slower speed. So yeah, the Golem I think is a little better than the Vityaz, but unfortunately you just can't even get the Golem anymore. And finally, our Wayland. Wayland. Where does he go? Hmm. Uh, so I would find it like I'm gonna just for now I want to put it here, but I don't know if it's like. Hmm. This is a pretty hard choice here because it's going to get damage resistance and faster healing so in the update. So I think that definitely Wayland is going to become a much more valuable support. Still, none of these are better than Nightingale, not even close, but they're still very good healers. So yeah, that's our entire B tier there. Anyway, this is the whole War Robots tier list. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video and maybe it taught you something, and maybe you disagree, maybe you think that your favorite robot deserves a higher tier or something. Whatever you think, tell me in the comments section below, and I will catch you on the flip side.